I was fired on the spot, 65 cents an hour down the drain.
For more than 50 years, the world watched a woman step into the bright studio lights, flash that huge, unforgettable smile, and gently tug her left earlobe before the curtain fell. To most people, it looked like a cute little habit, just something that made America's favorite funny woman even more lovable. But for Carol Burnett, that tiny move meant everything. It was not random. It was not just a quirk. It was a secret signal, a quiet message sent straight through the camera to the grandmother who raised her when her own parents were lost in their addictions. That simple tug was her way of saying, "I'm okay. I made it." This is Shadows of Stardom, where we strip away the sparkle and look at the real heartbeat behind the legend. Carol Burnett is known as the Queen of Comedy. She shattered doors that were locked tight for women in television. She stacked up awards like trophies on a shelf. She became the face of an era. She taught millions how to laugh when life hurt the most. But behind that giant smile was a woman carrying pain so heavy it could crush anyone. While the world laughed at her sketches, her private world was dealing with heartbreak that never made it into the script. Fans have whispered for years, was she truly happy? Or was the laughter just armor, a shiny shield to protect a wounded heart? Now, at 92 years old, Carol is no longer dodging those questions. She is opening up about the pressure of being the strong one, the rescuer, the family hero, the one who could make strangers laugh on command but could not protect her own daughter from the struggles that took her away. That kind of grief does not fade with applause. It sits with you in the silence after the crowd goes home. What happens when the spotlight shuts off? Who was she really signaling to every time she touched her ear? Carol Burnett's story is not just about fame and red carpets. It is about survival against odds that would break most people. Long before she became a television icon, she was just a scared little girl hiding in a closet inside a worn-down Hollywood apartment, praying for peace. And here is the twist that almost changed everything. Her career nearly never happened. If not for a mysterious stranger, a thick envelope packed with cash, and a promise she kept secret for 50 years, the world might have never known her name. That sounds like a movie plot, but it was real life. To understand why she still tears up today, we have to go back to where the laughter first started. Back to a cramped apartment in a low-rent part of 1940s Hollywood, apartment 102. That is where young Carol Burnett met life head-on before she ever stepped on a stage. Just miles away, movie stars were living in glamour and flashing lights. But inside that tiny space, Carol's reality looked nothing like the movies. She was raised mostly by her grandmother, the woman she lovingly called Nanny. They shared one small room where a Murphy bed folded down and took up almost every inch. Money was so tight that some nights they left the closet door open just so the hallway light could spill in.
I was a freshman at UCLA, and I was in the theater arts department. And at the end of that first semester, I got an award for the most outstanding newcomer.
That soft glow was their comfort, their tiny piece of hope in the dark. But poverty was not the deepest wound. The real pain came from watching her parents struggle with alcoholism. They were once described as charming and full of promise, but addiction changed everything. Carol saw the people she loved fade into strangers. The mood in the room could flip in seconds. As a child, she learned to read the air, to calm tension before it exploded. She would slip away to the movie theaters with Nanny, sitting in the dark and letting the glow of the screen wash over her. For a few hours, she could breathe. On that screen, families stayed together, problems wrapped up neatly. Happy endings were guaranteed. For a girl from apartment 102, those films felt like another planet. But dreams are not free, and college, that felt impossible. She had been accepted to UCLA, which should have been a celebration. Instead, it felt like heartbreak. The tuition bill looked like a wall too tall to climb. There was no money hiding in a drawer, no rich relative coming to save the day, just reality staring her down. Then something unbelievable happened, the kind of moment that sounds made up, but it was real. While performing at a private party, a businessman in the crowd watched her closely. He noticed her timing, her energy, that spark you cannot teach. After the show, he walked up to her with a quiet offer. Inside an envelope was $1,000, a huge amount at the time. Enough to get her to New York, enough to change her life forever. But this was not a free handout. It came with rules that would shape her future. First, she could never reveal his name, not to friends, not to the press, not to anyone. Second, she had to use the money to chase her dream without fear. No backing out, no second guessing. Third, if she ever made it big, she had to help others the same way he helped her. Pass it on, keep the chain alive. Carol took that envelope with shaking hands. She felt scared, grateful, and stunned all at once, and she kept her word. For decades, she protected that man's identity like a sacred secret. With cash in her purse and hope in her chest, she boarded a train to New York City. She was leaving behind the tiny apartment, the tension, the pain of growing up around addiction. She thought she was escaping it all, but pain does not stay behind so easily. It rides with you. As the train rolled out, she was no longer just a struggling girl from Hollywood. She was chasing something bigger, a stage, a spotlight, a future. But fame does not erase childhood scars. It only covers them with glitter. New York did not know what just stepped off that train. Carol Burnett was not the polished Hollywood type. She was tall, bold, and expressive. Her face could twist into 100 wild expressions in seconds. She was not quiet. She was not delicate. She was electric. Broadway felt her energy fast. With Once Upon a Mattress, she proved she was not just funny, she was unstoppable. Still, her real destiny was not limited to a theater stage. It was waiting inside millions of living rooms across America. In 1967, she walked into CBS with a daring idea. She wanted her own variety show. At the time, that world was ruled by men like Sid Caesar and Jackie Gleason. The executives did not hide their doubt. They told her variety was a man's territory. They hinted she should stick to sitcom roles, play the goofy wife, stay in her lane. Carol did not fold. She did not shrink. She bet on herself. And that bold move gave birth to the Carol Burnett Show, a series that ran for 11 powerhouse seasons and collected 25 Emmy Awards. That was not luck. That was domination. For more than a decade, Saturday nights belonged to her. She could walk down a staircase dressed in curtains like Scarlett O'Hara and have the entire country laughing until tears rolled down their faces. She led a comedy crew packed with talent like Harvey Korman and Tim Conway, and the chemistry was pure magic. Quick timing, real friendship, no fake energy. She earned the title Queen of Comedy the hard way, not by tearing people down, not by stirring drama, but by pure, undeniable skill. She would even pause the show to speak directly to the audience, treating the camera like a close friend instead of cold equipment. But the tabloids were starving for dirt, and they refused to believe anyone in Hollywood could actually be that decent.
Party the last time, on television. But no, just going out with some friends,
You'll have a foam party or a keg party or something?
In 1976, the National Enquirer decided to test her limits. They printed a wild story claiming Carol had been seen at a restaurant in Washington, D.C., drunk, loud, and arguing with Henry Kissinger. It sounded dramatic, it sounded messy, and it was completely false. For some celebrities, that kind of rumor might have been brushed off as noise. Ignore it. Let it fade. Move on. But for Carol Burnett, this was not small gossip. This hit her at the deepest level. She had grown up watching addiction tear her parents apart. She saw what alcohol did to people she loved. Because of that, she made a strict promise to herself. She would never let that control her life. She was not a drinker. She was afraid of that cycle. The accusation was not just wrong, it felt cruel. Her friends warned her to stay quiet. Her lawyers told her fighting a tabloid was like stepping into quicksand. They said nobody wins against that machine. The smarter move would be to let it die. But Carol was not built to back down. Standing there with calm fire in her eyes, she made a choice that shocked the industry. She sued the National Enquirer for libel, not for a big payout, not for revenge, for principle. She walked into court and made it clear her name was not up for sale. The trial dragged on. It was stressful. It was public. Every detail was examined. But in the end, she won. And that victory was loud. It sent a message across Hollywood that lies have consequences. Truth still matters, even when the media giants think they are untouchable. For a moment, she looked unstoppable. She had beaten the press. She had defended her name. She had faced down the shadow of addiction and refused to let it define her. From the outside, she seemed unbreakable. But life does not fight fair. While she could challenge headlines in court, she could not control what was quietly happening at home. Behind the gates of her Beverly Hills house, away from cameras and applause, a storm was building. The addiction she feared most did not disappear. It resurfaced in the next generation. Her oldest daughter, Carrie Hamilton, began struggling with drug addiction as a teenager. For Carol, it was like watching history repeat itself in real time. The same chaos, the same fear, the same helpless feeling she knew as a child. It was devastating. But this time, Carol was not a powerless kid hiding in a closet. She was a mother, and she refused to surrender. She understood something critical. Addiction thrives in silence, secrets protected. So she did something almost unheard of for a major star in that era. She went public. She cracked open the image of the perfect Hollywood family and admitted they were in crisis. She gave interviews not to promote a show, but to talk about the reality of addiction. That was bold, that was risky, and it was real. Behind the scenes, she practiced tough love. That meant setting boundaries. That meant saying no. That meant letting Carrie face consequences, even when it tore her apart inside. It was painful, it felt harsh, but it was done from love, not anger. And slowly it worked. Carrie fought her way back. She got sober, she rebuilt her life. The tension between mother and daughter softened into something powerful. They became close again, not just as family, but as creative partners. Together they wrote Hollywood Arms, inspired by Carol's memoir. They turned old wounds into art. They laughed again. They created together. For a moment it felt like the curse had been broken. But real life does not promise neat endings. Just as Carrie was stepping into her own spotlight, healthy and full of plans, the nightmare returned. In 2001, she was diagnosed with lung cancer that had spread to her brain. The shock was crushing. After battling addiction and winning, they were now facing something far more brutal. This was not a fight you could outwork or outlove. Carol stayed by her daughter's side in the hospital, day after day. She watched the vibrant, funny, strong young woman begin to fade. It was the hardest role she ever had to play. Not a comedian, not a public icon, just a mother preparing to say goodbye. The woman who once made millions burst into laughter was suddenly sitting in a silence so heavy it felt unreal. She was holding the hand of her daughter, and there was no script, no spotlight, no audience to soften the blow. The curtain had dropped for real this time. No applause, no encore. Just grief that does not clock out and does not fade with time. Now, at 92 years old, Carol Burnett sits in quiet rooms filled with memories instead of cameras. The roar of the crowd is gone. The studio lights are off. The awards lined up on her shelves feel cold and distant. In that stillness, she faces the question people have whispered for years. Can someone who gave so much joy actually feel whole inside? With a kind of bravery that goes beyond any character she ever played, Carol finally speaks openly. Not to attack anyone, not to stir drama, but to confess the one ache that still wakes her up at night. She admits that for all the fame, all the trophies, all the standing ovations, she would trade it in a heartbeat for just 5 more minutes with Carrie. 5 minutes. That is the deal she would make without blinking. She talks about the promise Carrie made in those final hours, the promise of a sign. And then something happened that she cannot fully explain. Not long after Carrie passed, Carol was sitting in a restaurant, drowning in quiet sorrow. Out of nowhere, a stranger walked up to her table and placed a bouquet of birds of paradise in front of her. No speech, no build-up, just the flowers. Carrie's favorite flowers. The timing was so exact, so personal, it shook her. It felt like a whisper from beyond, like a reminder that love does not just shut off. But life was not finished testing her strength. In a twist that felt painfully familiar, addiction crept back into her family during her later years. The same battle she watched destroy her parents. The same struggle her daughter had fought. This time, it was her youngest daughter, Erin, facing serious challenges. And caught in the middle of that chaos was her grandson, Dylan. As she approached 90, most people expected her to relax, step back, enjoy quiet retirement. That was not her move. Instead, she stepped forward again. In 2020, she made the difficult decision to seek legal guardianship of her grandson to help protect his stability and well-being. It was not about headlines. It was about safety. It was about love. That moment was raw. It meant admitting that the cycle she had worked her whole life to break was still echoing. It meant showing the world that even legends deal with family struggles. She was no longer just the comedy icon. She had become the grandmother stepping in, just like her own nanny once did for her in apartment 102. The circle had closed in the most intense way. Standing before a judge, older but still fierce, she made it clear she would not let her grandson slip through the cracks. This was not about reputation, not about image. This was about a child's future, and she was ready to fight for it with everything she had left. In that chapter of her life, the Queen of Comedy showed her truest form, not untouchable, not perfect, just human. A survivor who keeps standing up no matter how many times life knocks her down. Her heart has been bruised again and again, but it is still open, still loving, still pushing forward. She has spoken about forgiving her parents for their struggles. She has made peace with the industry that sometimes underestimated her. But when it comes to her family, she does not quit. She does not walk away. That is where her real strength lives. Carol Burnett's story is more than a timeline of awards and famous sketches. It is a mirror. It reflects the private battles people carry behind polite smiles. We look at her bright grin and realize something powerful. The loudest laughter can come from someone who knows deep pain. The funniest person in the room might be carrying the heaviest weight. From a cramped Hollywood apartment to the top of television history, her journey screams resilience. She did not choose the chaos she was born into. She did not choose the losses that found her, but she chose how to respond. She chose humor. She chose creativity. She chose to turn pain into something that helped other people breathe a little easier. When the makeup comes off and the lights go dark, what really defines us? The heartbreaks or the joy we fought to hold on to anyway? If a woman who has buried a child, faced addiction across generations, and battled public lies can still find reasons to smile, that says something huge. It says strength is not about never breaking. It is about breaking and still showing up. Her legacy is not just in golden statues or a star on a sidewalk. It is in the permission she gave all of us to be imperfect, to admit we are hurting, to laugh even when life feels unfair. She showed that you can be the strong one and still need support. You can be the savior and still be vulnerable. So when you think about the woman who tugged her ear at the end of every show, remember it was never just a cute habit. It was love. It was survival. It was a quiet message that even through pain, connection survives. And maybe, just maybe, it was also a reminder to all of us that we are never as alone as we think. Time has slowed down for Carol Burnett, but her spirit has not faded one bit. Even now, in her 90s, she carries herself with that same spark that once lit up television screens across the country. Friends say she still cracks jokes at the perfect moment, still tilts her head with that playful look, still finds humor in the middle of hard days. That is not an act. That is who she is. The laughter was never fake. It was forged in fire. In interviews, she speaks softly now, but her words hit deep. She says grief never fully leaves. It just changes shape. Some days it feels sharp. Other days it feels like a quiet shadow sitting beside her. But she refuses to let it steal her gratitude. She talks about Carrie with pride, not just pain. She celebrates her talent, her strength, her comeback story. That is how she keeps her daughter close, not just in memory, but in motion. And let's be real, Carol's life proves something powerful. Fame does not protect you from heartbreak. Money does not block tragedy. Awards do not fix family wounds. But courage changes everything. She faced addiction in 2 generations. She challenged the press when they tried to tear her down. She stood up in courtrooms. She stood up in hospitals. She stood up in front of judges for her grandson. That is not celebrity drama. That is backbone. What makes her story hit so hard is this. She never claimed to be perfect. She never pretended her life was spotless. She showed up as a woman who had scars and still chose love. That kind of honesty is rare. In a world obsessed with filters and flawless images, Carol kept it raw. She admitted fear. She admitted regret. She admitted that sometimes even the strongest person feels helpless. And that truth connects deeper than any punchline ever could. Think about that little ear tug again. For years, people thought it was just cute, just quirky. But now we know it was layered with meaning. It was gratitude to her grandmother. It was a quiet tribute to the woman who saved her. It was a reminder that no matter how high she climbed, she never forgot where she came from. That tiny gesture carried decades of love. Her story leaves us with a choice. We can hide our struggles behind smiles, or we can face them head on. We can let pain harden us, or we can turn it into something that helps somebody else. Carol chose to turn hers into comedy, into connection, into moments that made families sit together and laugh. That is legacy, not just fame, but impact. And maybe that is the real message here. Survival is not loud, it is not flashy. Sometimes it looks like a grandmother stepping up for her grandson. Sometimes it looks like a mother fighting for her child's recovery. Sometimes it looks like a woman in her 90s still believing in love even after loss. That is strength with no spotlight. So when you think about Carol Burnett, do not just picture the sketches and the costumes. Picture the fighter. Picture the mother. Picture the little girl in apartment 102 who refused to let darkness win. That is the full story. That is the heart behind the laughter. If this story moved you, if it made you see her in a new light, take a second to show some love. Like this video so more people can hear stories like this. Drop a comment and tell me what moment hit you the hardest. And if you want more deep dives into the real lives behind the legends, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you do not miss what is coming next. We have more stories waiting in the shadows, more truths behind the spotlight. And trust me, you will not want to miss the next one. I will see you in the next video.